So another concept is momentum. So we covered withedness and smoothness, and now we're talking about momentum. What is momentum? What it's not is when you're overdwelling and it slows down the momentum of your lessons. So it's the absence of your behavior that shows a lack of momentum in a classroom. What's an example of overdwelling? Pupil behavior would be an example of overdwelling. You're going to have minor disruptions, and that, again, that's where that journaling comes in, figuring out, is it minor or major? Do we really need to look at it? So a person with momentum will be able to ignore it. We can deal with minor infractions using nonverbal cues. So what are nonverbal cues? Your closeness to the student. If you see some issues arising, someone's not paying attention, your proximity to that student is directly relational to how they might respond to you. So try moving yourself closer, walking around. Touch. This one is tricky. I recommend touch if you know the child and you know that this is going to be effective, like a hand on the shoulder or tap on the hand. And by tap on the hand, I mean like maybe just putting your hand close to theirs. But you really need to know your student, because there's a lot of kids out there, a lot of adults out there who have a personal space boundary, and you don't really want to cause more of a problem just by touching them. I have a younger son, and he despises having his head touched. We're getting ready to go to Thailand, and one of the things culturally over there is that you're not allowed to touch the head. And he got so excited, he was like, finally, people aren't going to be touching me. So nonverbal cues. Touch can work really well, but just be mindful of whether or not you know this kid or not. If it's your own children, you know. If you're in a co-op, you only use this kind of nonverbal cue with a family that you know really well. A look. Every mother has a look, and you know how disparaging those looks can be, so use it. It's a nonverbal cue. Make eye contact. Wait until they make eye contact with you. If they keep disrupting, you might be looking in their direction, but they're not paying attention. So just kind of silently wait until they make eye contact. They'll figure it out. People always feel the eyes on them. Lower your volume and voice. One of the desires of our heart is to be heard. And when we feel like we're not being heard, we tend to get louder. So if you have a classroom that's getting loud, it's probably because all these dynamic creations are desiring to be heard, and so they're getting louder. What can you do? Your instincts are going to be wanting to shout over them, but one of the most crazy phenomenons that can happen is if, as your students, your kiddos are getting louder, you get quieter. And it's crazy. Try it. Everyone will quiet down. If it's taking a little longer than you want, try to pair it with closeness to students and looks and touch. Pair it with the previous three. You're walking around and you're looking and you're waiting and you're lowering your voice and you're saying, if you can hear me, look at me. Or if you can hear me, raise your hand. Or to the student that's really not catching on, move close to them and say, gee, if you can't hear me, you're going to miss out on these great instructions I have for you. Just lower that voice and you'll be amazed that people will actually come to your level, and they will come to your energy, your quietness, and your calm. Momentum continued. Instructions. Simple instructions should be easy to follow and pre-established. There's no need to go over and re-explain everything. If you have a student or a couple of them that are not getting it, just pull them aside and explain it, rather than interrupting your momentum and stopping to re-explain to the entire class. How do we judge this? Watch for faces and reactions. You should be able to tell who's checking in and who's checking out. Start by walking around and monitoring. We talk a lot about movement with teaching your child, and that goes for you as well as the student. So be walking and moving and getting involved. If you find yourself needing to repeat several times, then that's kind of a good idea to say, you know what, now's the time I'm going to actually stop and re-instruct the entire class. A good idea here is to say, if one child asks a question, it's probably a couple others that might have the same question. So if it's your own children and you have just a handful, then it might be necessary to re-explain it. Most of us don't have children in the same grade level. There are a few of us that do. It's a lot easier in your homeschool room. If you're a mom who's volunteered to teach a co-op class, and you have 3 kids out of your 10 that ask the question, now might be a time that you want to stop and reevaluate. Do I need to reteach this to the whole class? Or is that the 3 that constantly need to be repeated to? You have to judge. Each situation is going to be dynamic and an amoeba, and it's just kind of going to need to judge with it. That there again, that's your cue. It's your with itness to figure it out. So we want to know what is age appropriate for instructions. What does that mean? That means, are we going to be cutting, reading, or writing our names? When you are dealing with younger ones, you're not going to want to waste a lot of time instructing on these things if your meat of your lesson is something else. So just figure out what's age appropriate and what is going to help with the smoothness of your lesson. The fourth and final